They say, "Speak of the devil, and he shall appear." But what if the devil doesn't always come with horns and fire? What if he has a sly grin and a deal you can't resist? Across centuries, from the brothers Grimm to Once Upon a Time, Rumpelstiltskin isn't just a mischievous trickster. He might actually be the devil himself. Not in flames, but in contracts. Not with force, but with temptation. Because across every version, no matter how he's written, Rumpelstiltskin's true power isn't magic, it's manipulation. He doesn't destroy people. He makes them destroy themselves. He doesn't wield power. He hands it to you, wrapped in desperation, and whispers, "Go on, use it." This isn't just a fairy tale. It's a mirror, a warning about what we trade when we're desperate, and what we lose when we think we've won. And now, we'll peel back the layers and unmask the true face of Rumpelstiltskin, the devil in disguise, the soul broker of fairy tales. After all, the devil is in the details. Before Once Upon a Time, before Shrek, there was the 1812 Brothers Grimm version of Rumpelstiltskin. And it wasn't a cute fable about names and spinning wheels. It was dark and deeply unsettling. This is the real Rumpelstiltskin, the one the Grimms recorded. And once you hear it, you might realize this wasn't a fairy tale at all. It was a devil's bargain. The story starts out like this. The creak of a spinning wheel in a cold, empty room. There was a miller, and he had a daughter. He stood before the king's men in the tavern. Drunk as a fish, he boasted, "My daughter can spin straw into gold." The king's men leaned closer, and by dawn, word reached the castle. King Albrecht, we shall call him, was a man whose crown sat heavy with greed, heard the tale. But all he could see was gold. Endless gold. "Bring her," he commanded. "If she fails, she dies." He delivered his daughter to the castle, and the king led her to a stone chamber which had a spinning wheel sat in the center, surrounded by piles of straw. "Spin this into gold by morning," Albrecht decreed, "or your head will roll." Then he locked the door and left. She was trapped. Right there, that exact sort of moment, that's where the devil thrives. When everything feels overwhelming, that's his dwelling place. But Rumpelstiltskin wasn't just any devil. He was the very worst. What the king asked was impossible, and she had no magic, no power. All she had was fear. So after she had spun the wheel for hours without any result, that was when he appeared. Rumpelstiltskin. He came under pretense of care and worry, and when she opened up to him, he promised her what she wanted. He promised to help her spin the straw to gold for a price. He started small, asking for her necklace. He spun the straws to gold. Seeing the results by morning, the king locked her in a bigger room with more straws. Rumpelstiltskin helps her again in exchange for her ring. The king was even more pleased and demanded more gold, promising that she would wed his son if she succeeded. This was Rumpelstiltskin's moment. She had gone from having no hope at all to having a chance at a bright future. But she had ran out of things to offer. Knowing this, Rumpelstiltskin came again on that third night, acting so innocent, like he wasn't about to ask for the most horrendous thing. In exchange for helping her again, he demanded something different this time. Not jewelry, because she didn't have any. Rather, he asked for a sacrifice, her firstborn child. This must have been very confusing for her, because she had no husband or child. But that's the thing with the devil. He trades not only with present possessions. He wanted the first child she would give birth to, whenever she did eventually give birth to him. Being the trickster he was, He would have made her believe that it was her life that was on the line. He would have said that if she died in that situation, then the future she didn't want to give wouldn't exist. But there was nothing fair about that trade. It was monstrous and devilish. That's when the devil strikes. When you're at rock bottom, when the world has stripped you bare. And of course, she agreed to his cruel terms, not because she wanted to. Rather, it was because the poor girl was terrified. Rumpelstiltskin must have clapped his hands and sat at the wheel and spun gold like that was what he was born to do. She had been manipulated, not by magic, but by her own desperation, her father's lie, the king's greed. Rumpelstiltskin hadn't forced her hand. He'd offered a choice, and she'd taken it. But why a child, though? Because only the devil trades in bloodlines. A child isn't just a life. It's a future, a legacy, a piece of your soul. Rumpelstiltskin didn't want gold or jewels. He wanted something eternal. His power wasn't in spinning straw. It was in knowing when to strike. But the story doesn't end there. She survived. She married the prince, gave birth to a child, a new life, a new beginning. And that's when he returned. Rumpelstiltskin, just a soft voice in the night. Now the child is mine. The contract had been sealed, the bargain struck. She would give him anything but the child. And Rumpelstiltskin smiled. "I'll give you one last chance," he said. "If you can guess my name in 3 days, the child stays with you." A final game. A rigged one, surely. After all, names hold power, especially true names. In myth, to name a being is to bind it. In folklore, a name is the soul. Rumpelstiltskin knew this. That's why he kept his so well hidden. He was certain no one could ever guess it. Because the devil never expects to be unmasked. But arrogance is always the devil's weakness. On the third night, a messenger returned. He'd gone deep into the forest, searching for answers, and he'd heard something strange. A mad little man, dancing alone in the moonlight, gloating over his victory, chanting, "Tonight, tonight, my plans I make. Tomorrow, tomorrow, the baby I take. The queen will never win the game, for Rumpelstiltskin is my name." The queen whispered it the next night. "Your name is Rumpelstiltskin." And just like that, the deal shattered, because now he had no power. The illusion broke. The shadow had a name. The devil had been exposed. He screamed, raged. In some tellings, he stomped through the floor. In others, he tore himself in two. But the truth was this: he was defeated, not by magic, not by strength, by knowledge. Because sometimes all it takes to break the spell is to say the name of the thing that haunts you. And that's the true ending of Rumpelstiltskin. A reckoning. And a reminder that even the darkest deal can be undone if you know what it's really called. Fate isn't written in the stars. It's spun by a man with a dagger and a smile. A man we know as Mr. Gold, or in another life, Rumpelstiltskin. In Once Upon a Time, a TV series that tells the story of a new world, one in which fairy tale legends and modern life collide. Rumpelstiltskin wasn't just a sorcerer. He was a god of manipulation, a puppet master who didn't twist fate. He rewrote it. His deals, his whispers, his so-called kindness, they weren't magic. They were traps, precise, inevitable, designed to backfire at just the right moment. He didn't steal children. He stole futures, bloodlines, entire legacies, and no one ever saw the strings until it was too late. Before the Dark One, he was just a man, limping, fearful, and powerless. But once he took the dagger, everything changed. He became feared, but never truly free. The dagger amplifies magical power and the essence of darkness. The name of the current Dark One is engraved on the dagger. This connects to the folklore idea that to name something is to bind it. His own son, Balefire, was just a boy when Rumpelstiltskin promised to protect him. They stood before a portal, a chance to escape their broken world. And as Balefire jumped in, hand outstretched, his father hesitated. Not because he couldn't follow, but because he wouldn't. Balefire vanished, screaming, and Rumpelstiltskin traded his child's future for a prophecy that Balefire would one day lead him to power in a world beyond magic. It wasn't cowardice, it was calculation. Rumpelstiltskin was never just a sorcerer. He was a strategist, a kingmaker. Take Cora, the miller's daughter, another desperate soul. He taught her magic, yes. But more than that, he fed her ambition. He didn't give her a crown. He gave her the hunger for it. And when she ripped out her own heart for power, he smiled. Her daughter, Regina, the evil queen, would cast the curse that trapped Storybrooke in time. But that curse? That wasn't Regina's idea. It was his. Slipped to her in a scroll, like a match handed to someone holding gasoline. Even love didn't change him. Belle saw the man beneath the monster. She believed love could save him. And maybe for a moment, he believed it too, but he pulled away. Always. Love was a risk, and Rumpelstiltskin didn't take risks. He calculated them. He married Belle, yes, but he hid the dagger, kept his secrets, and held onto his power. Because for him, love wasn't a bond. It was leverage. His real power wasn't magic. It was prophecy, not foreseen, but engineered. A savior will break the curse, he told Regina. That savior wasn't fate. It was Emma Swan, someone he ensured would exist. He made sure Snow White and Prince Charming's love would produce a child. That child would grow up alone, broken, destined to shatter the curse exactly as he planned. Why? Not for freedom, but for access. Because the moment that curse broke, he'd reunite with Balefire, now Neil, in a world where he could begin again. And when he finally found Neil in New York, the past returned. You chose power, Neil said. I chose you, Rumpelstiltskin replied. Maybe that was true. Maybe it wasn't. But it was a lie he needed to believe. Because Neil's life, his pain, his son Henry, all of it came from that betrayal. Rumpelstiltskin hadn't just lost his son. He'd shaped his destiny. Every heartbreak, every scar. Even in Storybrooke, as Mr. Gold, he was never just a shopkeeper. He controlled the town's secrets. Everyone's weaknesses. Regina's rage, Hook's vengeance, Snow's hope. And he offered them deals, each one a carefully disguised noose. All magic comes with a price, he'd say. But the price was never random. It was designed to tilt the board in his favor. Even when he lost, he gained. When Emma broke the curse, he lost frozen time, but gained magic in a new world. When Neil died, his heart cracked, but Henry became the new legacy to shape. Because Rumpelstiltskin didn't want gold. He wanted eternity. He wanted his bloodline to echo forever, to twist not just lives, but generations. His love for Belle and Balefire may have been real. But even love was a tool to keep him human enough to feel and cruel enough to act. In Once Upon a Time, Rumpelstiltskin didn't wield power. He handed it to you, wrapped in fear, and whispered, "Go on, use it." But even the devil grows tired. After centuries of spinning lies, bartering bloodlines, and forging futures like weapons, Rumpelstiltskin, now Mr. Gold, finally faced the one opponent he couldn't outsmart: himself. In the final season of Once Upon a Time, Gold no longer thirsted for power. He was weary, haunted, searching not for magic, but for freedom from the dagger, the curse, and the immortality that kept him chained to darkness. And then it happened. In a fractured realm, he met his greatest enemy, a version of himself. A wish-born doppelganger, pure evil, unredeemable, and utterly content to rule. But Gold had changed. This time, he didn't offer a deal. He ripped out his own heart, and with it, ended them both, destroying the Dark One's curse forever. No more daggers, no more deals, no more devil. And as his body fell, his soul rose. Rumpelstiltskin's story ends with the thing he always ran from, letting go of power. After centuries of manipulation, selfishness, and fear, he finally chooses love and earns redemption, not by outsmarting fate, but by surrendering to it. But just as easily as he creates, so also he erases. And one signature can erase a lifetime. In Shrek Forever After, Rumpelstiltskin wasn't the towering menace you'd expect. He was small, wiry, with a cackle that danced on the edge of madness. His garish wig and gaudy boots made him look like a jester. But don't be fooled. This imp was the most dangerous villain the franchise ever unleashed. Rumpelstiltskin didn't wield swords or sorcery. His weapon was a contract, inked with promises that twisted reality itself. He didn't want Shrek's life. He wanted his legacy, his entire existence, wiped clean so no one would remember the ogre who loved Fiona. And he nearly succeeded. Shrek stood at a crossroads with a heavy heart. Fatherhood, marriage, and the swamp he called home was all slipping through his fingers. He missed the days when he was feared, free, alone. That was when Rumpelstiltskin slithered into the picture. "Ogre for a day," he whispered, sliding a contract across the table. A chance for Shrek to be feared, free, and respected again. He simply had to give up a day from his past to live a magical day where things were exactly what he wanted them to be. Simple, right? He didn't bother to read the fine print, Shrek signs. What he doesn't realize is that day was the day he was born. And with that, everything is gone. Fiona never met him. His children were never born. Far, far away is a dictatorship ruled by Rumpelstiltskin. Ogres are hunted. Witches patrol the skies. The kingdom is broken, and no one remembers who Shrek is. Rumpelstiltskin erased him. This Rumpelstiltskin doesn't throw fireballs or cast spells. He rewrites contracts. He finds you when you're vulnerable and gives you exactly what you want, with terms you didn't bother to read. And Shrek wasn't the first. In this timeline, Rumpelstiltskin has tricked dozens, if not hundreds, of people into signing their lives away. His empire wasn't built on force. It was built on fine print. The price of Shrek's signature was more than a day. It was his story. And once that story was gone, Rumpelstiltskin filled the gap. He became the king, the hero, the center of every tale. Fiona doesn't recognize Shrek. There's no spark, no memory, no curse to break. Their love was erased, like it never existed. And that's the point. Rumpelstiltskin didn't want revenge. He wanted legacy. Not his own, but Shrek's. He wanted to steal it, rewrite it, and replace it with his own name. This isn't a battle for survival. It's a battle for narrative. And for Rumpelstiltskin, that's power. Because to him, if no one remembers you, you might as well have never existed. But you never had a choice. He knows your deepest and darkest desires, and he preys on them. Rumpelstiltskin was the devil. Every trait he possessed was a shadow of Hell's architect. Grimm's goblin, Storybrooke's schemer, Shrek's clown in a wig. The voice changed, the costume changed, the method didn't. He never used force, just a pen and a promise, a whisper when you were weakest, a deal too tempting to resist. The price, always the same, your name, your child, your story, your legacy. In Grimm's tale, he found a desperate girl in a locked room and promised salvation. In Once Upon a Time, he let his son fall into another world, claiming prophecy over regret. He didn't ask for a child. He twisted fate to take one anyway. In Shrek Forever After, he slid a contract across the table and erased Shrek from his own story. No family, no memory, no name. Across every version, he waits until you're broken. Then he smiles. He doesn't threaten. He offers. He doesn't steal. You give it to him. Because he knows what you want and how badly you'll pay to get it. That's the trick. Rumpelstiltskin doesn't force you. He finds your weakness and lets you hand him the knife. He's not just a trickster. He's the devil in disguise. He shows up when you're most desperate. A locked room, a looming war, a broken life. He offers knowledge, power, escape, just like the serpent in Eden. He honors the letter of the law, never breaks it. Like Satan bound to divine rules, he twists contracts without crossing them. Guess his name. He's powerless. Follow the terms. He can't touch you. But he knows most people never read the fine print. He appears, makes the deal, and vanishes. Story to story, timeline to timeline. He's not a character. He's a constant. Not just a villain, a warning. And his power isn't in the magic. It's in the choice he tricks you into thinking is yours. Rumpelstiltskin doesn't take your soul. He waits for you to sign it away. He waits in the shadows, knowing you will. And when you do, his laugh is the devil's own, sealing your story in his book.
From shadowed realms, your essence I claim. By this pact you are bound to my name.
Let me know, do you think Rumpelstiltskin really was the devil? Was Rumple your favorite character in Once Upon a Time? If you thought Rumpelstiltskin was dark, wait until you meet Peter Pan as an actual demon. Go check out that video next. Trust me, it's not the story you remember. Thanks for watching.